Hey everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbin' Is Racing podcast brought to you by NASCAR. Up next we have the Forever 400 presented by Mobil 1. It's a NASCAR Cup Series race at Homestead Miami Speedway. It's going to be Sunday, October 22nd. Starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can catch all the action on NBC. We're moving right along. We have one person locked into the round of four, the final four in Phoenix. Otherwise, people are still clawing for their way into that final. Playoff standings right now are Kyle Larson with the ticket to the next round, followed by William Byron, then Truex, then Denny. Below the cut line, you have Chris Bell, 2 points below the cut line, Reddick minus 16, Blaney minus 17, and Chris Buescher minus 23. So it's been a great playoff series so far, and it's only continue to get better with Miami this week, Martinsville, and then we'll wrap the whole goddamn thing up in Phoenix on November 5th. I'm going to start with some corrections. I mentioned last weekend that Homestead Miami Speedway announced that this will be the Forever 400 to honor Kevin Harvick in his last ride in Miami. I asked if there was anything Jeter-esque like that had happened before, and there was. Like, everyone kind of had brought it up during the podcast that there had been some stuff that had gone on in the past, particularly around the retirements of like Jeff Gordon and whatnot. A guy who writes in quite a bit, a guy named Brandon, had wrote in, there's a fun fact that Jeff Gordon, when he was retiring, the year he was retiring, I guess it was 2015, Phoenix had done something where they couldn't change the name of the race. Like, it's kind of nice that Mobil 1 is changing the name of the race to Forever 400, but they couldn't change the name of the race. It was still called the Quicken Loans Race for Heroes 500, but they changed the name of the track for that weekend. So Phoenix Speedway had become Jeff Gordon Raceway just for that weekend back in June of 2015. I think that's pretty fucking cool.
That has a good ring to it, too.
It does,
they should
right?
Get him a Jeff Gordon Raceway.
He should build his own raceway.
One.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, so I thought that was good and thank you, Brandon, for sending stuff in, keeping everybody on their toes and whatnot. One of the things that I think was that cool that had happened this weekend was they had that wedding. Remember we spoke about that in August, and I thought it was going to be the coolest thing in the world. I thought it was a great idea. Busch Light had announced that the dude from their commercials, the Busch commercials, they have that outdoorsy guy with the beard, he was going to officiate a wedding during the first pit stop of Kevin Harvick, and they wound up doing it. It was Tori Lindsay and Nick Brindell. They tied the knot in what Busch Light calls the fastest wedding imaginable during Kevin Harvick's first pit stop this weekend. They exchanged their vows beside Harvick's pit box in just under 10 seconds. I had a tough time finding this. Like, when I Googled it, because I knew it was happening this weekend, when I was trying to Google stuff, just the announcement had come up. The first page of results was the announcement. The actuality of it wasn't quite as exciting. Did you guys get to see it at all?
No.
All I saw was one tweet, and I feel like this is a kind of a move where I feel like the announcement is the news. You know what I mean? Like, that was announcing that this was happening, generated all the PR buzz, and then when it actually happens, it's like, oh, I guess that's what it is. I mean, in hindsight, I guess it probably should have known, like, how exciting could a little, like, wedding you can't hear be, but it didn't really seem like it was that exciting.
It wasn't, and
I
feel bad
from it.
Yeah, it was tough to find, Quiggs, and she had a fire suit on that was white, and she had like a small train flowing from the back. Probably had a train run on her later.
Stop.
And then he had a black fire suit going on, and it was like, these people spent what's the most important day of their life probably up to this time, and with very little fanfare. I thought it was going to be cooler, and it really wasn't. So I just wanted to get that out there because it's all kind of part of this whole Kevin Harvick victory tour. Typically, we get into headlines and then we get into recaps and whatnot, but we have somebody as a guest today who is part of the headlines, and he's a very big part of the recap. Spider's close friends with Riley Herbst. So when Riley had a hell of a weekend this weekend, Spider's like, can we just give him the nod and get him on? We've been dying to have him on the show, to be quite honest with you. So we're going to go 3 wide with him in 2 seconds. But just so you know, Stewart Haas Racing announced Riley Herbst will return to drive the number 98 car in the Xfinity Series next season. And also, it was his performance on Saturday. Herbst dominated at his home track in Las Vegas on Saturday. He won his first career Xfinity race, and he won it by a margin of victory of 14.9 seconds. Huge. It was the largest margin of victory in the series this season, and he did it in front of more than 60 family and friends seated trackside at his hometown in Las Vegas. So, huge week for this kid. We couldn't be happier for him, and we couldn't be happier they decided to join us today. So we're about to go 3 wide with Riley Herbst. All right, so like I said, it's Riley Herbst. So Riley Herbst has been a friend of ours. Like every time we go by the track, incredibly friendly to Spider and I, closer friends with Spider. Whatever, I don't think he likes older people. But he went through Las Vegas this weekend like shit through a goose. And like I had said, he did it in front of a pretty big posse of his family and friends. So Riley, welcome to the show for the first time. Congratulations on the big win this weekend. And I'm going to start. What did you guys do to cheat in order to win because Blaney tried and they went after him for the shocks and they said, no, the shocks are good. So there's some wiggle room now with NASCAR. Exactly how did you embarrass the field illegally? Was it louvers? What was the deal that made the difference this weekend?
Yeah, so our cars don't have louvers, so I think we're off the hook there for sure. But it was just really fast. I don't know. It was a really good car. I remember it from the first lap of practice. I knew we were gonna have a car that was really good and gonna be competitive. Obviously, it went 100 laps or so green, so I feel like the lead compounded on top of each other, which it usually doesn't happen in the Xfinity races. But it was a really good win. It felt really good, and we celebrated too. So it was all in all a good weekend.
So this win's cool for a lot of reasons, Riley. 1, because it's your first win. 2, because it happened in your hometown. 3, because it's the 100th win for Stewart Haas Racing. And 4, just the dominating fashion, 15-second edge. What is so special about it for you? If there's one thing that you're proud of with this win, what is it you're taking away from it?
I hate to get all cliche on you guys, but just like perseverance, like continue to work hard, especially after like the tough days, showing up at the racetrack and just continue to put your best foot forward and having it all pay off with such a big win, like you said, for Stewart Haas Racing and for myself, and do it with my friends and family, which was really cool. And it was a really good time.
When Chase Elliott wins a race, and it's been a while, they ring the bell, right, in Dawsonville. And perhaps they buy people a beer and a shot. I'd love to go to that place and just have a couple of beers with them. I imagine it's a little bit of a different celebration when you're from Vegas, you're a young guy, and you win in Vegas. How fucking nuts did it get afterwards? Because you deserve it, right? Like, I think, that time when everything comes together and you have the day of your life, you deserve to then blow off some steam in Vegas. How difficult did it get at the Spearmint Rhino? I'm just joking. And by the way, I'm only joking with the cheating and the strip club shit. Well, how nuts did it get with Vegas after the big win?
We actually didn't make it to any of those after-hour gentleman places. We went down to Caesars, and we had a lot of fun at Caesars Palace. Went to a place called Omnia, had a really good time. Watched Alesso perform. And I was in bed around 4 a.m. So it was all in all, it was a really fun time with my best friends, my cousins, my sisters. Everybody had a good time, and it was even better that we won and were able to go celebrate.
But popping bottles with models type shit, right? They bring out the big thing of Belvedere with the sparklers in it and shit like that. Like the whole idea, right?
We had some sparklers. We had some, there was like people coming down from the ceiling, dancing. It was wild. It was definitely a Vegas type experience, to say the least. So my sister was joking with me. She's like, aren't you glad you won in Vegas and not some random place in Wisconsin? Oh. I said, I don't know. I would have taken the random place in Wisconsin too, just because of all the hard work we put into it. But it was really fun to be able to celebrate with everybody you love.
The club scene in Pocono is not for you, just so you know. I've been to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then before I let you go on to Spider, how close, if Spider and I were at that race, and we go to random races, like I said, and we see you quite a bit, how close were me and Spider to being on the list at that club where you tore it up till 4 o'clock in the morning? Are we B listed, C list? Like, where are we as far as and are we on the same thing, or is it Spider? You can come, and if you need to, bring large, like that type of stuff. Like, just let us know where we exist in your universe.
No, Spider and you got me on the list at Barstool Nashville, so you guys
That's
are
right.
A-listers for sure. So
Let's go.
I was wishing you guys were in Vegas and you guys could have joined us. It was a good time. So always invited.
Thanks.
The last like 3 weeks or so in my life has been the Riley Herbst show. I mean, we saw you wheel that white monster, the Beast car in the Cup Series, which you almost won the damn race in. I was incredibly impressed with your ability there. And then now in Xfinity, winning by a dominating 15 seconds. What is it that's come alive in Riley Herbst the last couple weeks? And I guess, what is your timeline on going to Cup full time, given the success we've seen so recently?
Well, like you mentioned before, I've re-signed with Stewart-Haas Racing for next year in the Xfinity Series, and I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, I get some more Cup opportunities as well. I felt like I did a really good job and put myself in a good position on the Cup races I did this year. So hopefully, get more stuff there. But I don't really know. I feel like it's just been a culminating factor of all these things coming together, and I'm glad they're starting to come together and to see all the hard work pay off.
We were speaking, or excuse me, we do a paint scheme segment, and we're going to do it later on. I think Harvick is rolling with the classic Budweiser paint scheme this week down in Homestead. You had the shake and bake thing that had gone on with Priest and Briscoe a couple of weeks ago. It seems like Stewart-Haas is DTF, as the kids say, as far as like mixing things up with putting on the car. Is there anything that you'd like to drive? Is there any, like maybe a throwback or something interesting that you can do, even within or without the monster scheme, that obviously Stewart-Haas is up for suggestions? I think it was Chase Briscoe who put the Talladega Nights thing in front of him and they bid on it. Something that a young guy like you would be excited to drive in?
Honestly, I don't know if you guys did see it, but earlier this year I ran the Ken Block throwback, the memorial scheme. That was something I've always wanted to do. So to get both sides to agree on that with Monster and Stewart-Haas was really cool. And it turned out pretty sweet too.
Oh, that's cool as hell.
Yeah.
So moving in with the extension at Stewart-Haas Racing to return for the Xfinity Series next year, what are your goals for the rest of this season and next while running with them? And then I guess what else do you think that you need to prove in the Xfinity Series before you can move up to Cup Series?
Hopefully a few more race wins for sure. I really like the upcoming tracks. I feel like next year we can hit the ground running too and come out of the gates hot. So, and I would just like, to your second question, just be contender in the playoffs, try to make a deep run next year and kind of see how everything stacks up. But like I said, these next three tracks are awesome. Homestead's going to be a lot of fun, and I really love Phoenix too. So should be a good time.
I'm actually looking at the Ken Block shout out from Darlington. That's a dope paint scheme. Oh, well
Yeah,
done.
it came out good.
Yeah. What do you do when you step out of your car at the end of a race where nobody was close to you? I know it's the first time that that's happened. And I know there were certain records broken and whatnot. Does everyone come over and say, what the fuck? Did people say, make sure you check his car? Is there animosity? Is there wonderment by the guys that you're, competing against? I can just imagine that it's Christmas morning for you. Honestly.
It was Christmas morning times 10 for sure. But I didn't really hear any animosity or anything like that. I was in Victory Lane with my family. Then we went to the media center. And then by the time I was done with media, I went back to the garage and everybody was gone. So it was just a really cool experience. And I hope I can do it again. I mean, I think 15 seconds is being a bit greedy. But hopefully we can repeat it here soon.
Back to the monster, the beast car you ran previously. When you did that, first of all, you're a great actor. You did a great job with the promo, unveiling that scheme. But can you explain what Terribles is to Large and I? I heard a little bit about this, but I want to hear it straight from the source. And
Terribles.
Can we get one in Chicago, maybe?
I don't know if there actually was one in Chicago. Trivia.
Oh,
That's
really?
First ever one was. Yeah, my great grandfather opened the first one in Chicago. Back in like the 60s, I believe. So it's a gas station chain, kind of like a QT or a Sheetz, but out here on the West Coast. And all through Nevada, California, and Arizona. So there's quite a bit of them, and it's been a lot of fun.
It
Wait a
looks like
sec.
a
So
great spot.
this is the PT Barnum of gasoline. Unusual marketing strategies, undercutting the competition with low prices, and pioneering the convenience. I didn't know about this shit. Is
I know
this
you. I know you're pretty loyal. Like, obviously, you're pretty loyal to the Monster brand and everything, and you get some of the best schemes over there. But do you think there might ever be a day where we see a Terribles scheme?
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to talk and see what we can do. I really like the colors with the red, white, and blue.
The mascot is so cool.
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Terrible?
cowboy with the
The
six
cowboy.
shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you said, so there's letdown games, right? So people who automatically bet against the guy after they had the game of their life, like the letdown game type thing. What do you do going into this weekend? Talk to us about your game plan this weekend. Talk to us about the track. How do you feel your chances are? How do you drive on such a surface? Talk to us about Miami.
Yeah, I feel like the game plan is going to be the same game plan as Las Vegas. We went in to Las Vegas just thinking of a solid top 10, top five day, continuing to build. And I think me and my crew chief talked about it yesterday morning. Our goals haven't really shifted much. They're still the same goals to run in the top five, get stage points both stages, and but to do that at Homestead, you're gonna have to be right around the fence, so close that you can like barely kiss it with the quarter panel, but you don't want to get stuck in it, or else your day will probably be over. But it's just gonna be a really tough race. The sun's gonna be setting, so it'll be in our eyes into turn one, and gonna have to navigate all that stuff.
Well, I didn't even think about that. Sun glare into turn one.
Big
A
time.
lot of sun in
Because they took some
Miami as well.
grandstands out, so it goes right through now.
Oof, it's terrible.
So, look, NASCAR just dropped the 2024 schedule. Thoughts on the schedule? If you could make one change, what would it be?
Okay, the fall Las Vegas race to run the street circuit with F1.
Ooh,
Ooh,
oh,
that would be fun.
Running down the strip would be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the schedule. I'm excited we get to go back to Iowa, and everything else looks good to me.
How about the international stuff? Like, you disappointed? I'm disappointed that we're not going to Montreal. Like, I know Montreal was on the table for a while. It was one of Spidey Scoops. Wasn't able
Spice
to,
Scoops.
it wasn't able to go through because a lot of the logistics, but it was good intel. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about, possibly opening this up into international markets? I'm sure you're for it, but is there any, like, international place that you'd like to run? Las Vegas street race would be fucking dope, but like, where else would you like to go?
Yeah, Montreal would have been cool. I didn't know if the Xfinity cars were going to go there or not, but
Right.
Mexico City would be really cool. Anywhere over in Europe, I feel like would be a stretch, but would be pretty neat too, just to go be able to visit that place as well, and then race over there and try to bring this sport to those new fans. But Mexico City, anywhere down in the south, Brazil would be really cool as well.
By the way, the kid wins in Las Vegas. Now he wants to go to Brazil. You seen a pattern here, fucking Spider, or is it just me?
He's living life, man. I can't knock him for that. Speaking of living life, you're going to get obviously an off season upcoming, and NASCAR drivers have some of the shortest off seasons out of any professional athletes. What are you going to do with the time, and will this off season be any different than ones in the past? Do you have any traditions you might do every off season, or how is that time spent?
Yeah, it's really just back on the West Coast with my family and my good friends. We might take a few trips with some time together. We might go down to Mexico, I think, which is always fun. And then whenever I can get up in the mountains to go snow skiing, I really enjoy that as well too. And then you blink and it's
Hold
already
on a
time to
second. Hold on
media
a
center.
second. Spider, I got to jump in. Are you really going to go fucking skiing after the whole Chase Elliott thing? I mean, like, people don't come over to the drivers now and say, no more. No more of that bullshit. No more strapping your fucking ankles into gigantic plastic boots and going down a mountain 65 miles an hour. Am I out of my mind, Spider? You tell me, Spider. This should,
Listen,
right?
I think the driver should be able to. You should be able to be concerned, but at the same time, the driver should be able to have fun. As I just got done saying, their off season is like 2 weeks, so I don't know. Let them have fun for those 2 weeks.
All right, fine.
I've been on skis since I was two, so I've done it every year. We used to just go up there for Christmas, with me and my family and my cousins. So yeah, it's always kind of in the back of your mind. But I mean, you drive on the freeway every day.
Yeah, you're right. I do it
You're
in New York.
probably flying in New York and Chicago to see Spider. There's airplanes.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's crazy nowadays, but yeah, I enjoy snow skiing and it's a good time.
Yeah. And I'm killing my body with drugs and alcohol. Let me ask you something too. How about this for you said you had the day of your life this past Saturday, or at least the best day of your career. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What was the worst day of your career? While I have you here, is there a low point for Riley Herbst where you're like, shit, this might not be for me, as opposed to this gigantic high that you had this weekend?
Yeah, it was 20 2019 Michigan Xfinity. We wrecked in practice, and then in the race, backup car, we wrecked. So it was two cars in one weekend. So
Yikes.
that's a big, vast difference from two cars in one weekend to dominating the field by 15 seconds.
That is great. Yeah, and then the highs are absolutely highs. We're going to let you go because I know you guys have a lot of stuff to do during the playoffs, particularly. But I want to close on this idea. Imagine you get your first Xfinity win, and it's at your hometown, and your hometown is Vegas, and you tear it up till 3 a.m, and then you go down, and the next race is in fucking Miami, and you pull off another win down there. I'm seeing like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You're in a bathtub full of ice, missing a kidney. If you get to that point, I would love to fucking get the call, and me and Spider will chop her down in a heartbeat. Wouldn't we, Spider?
Yeah, absolutely.
We
Easily.
might have to call Dave to go see his new mansion that he talks about as well.
Oh
Speaking
yeah.
of Dave, what I know you're a big stoolie. What are some of your favorite barstool or Dave moments that you've seen?
I mean, Dave is just a straight up character. We love him. The most recent one is when he took back the ship, and he went to go check on his beautiful business, and nobody was in the office working, and he had a small meltdown. That was one of the top five funniest things I've seen online in a long time, for sure.
There's a rumor that he might be at one of our races next year. So there's a
We
rumor
love that.
to get Dave back to the track because he's, obviously a huge NASCAR fan. So when he does, we'll see if we can get
What was
something
the quote he
together.
said at Talladega a few years ago?
What was,
Davey Portnoy, fast cars, loose women. That's what I'm about.
Oh, yeah.
but I loved how he said, unless your team's playing in the Super Bowl, going to Talladega is a bigger bucket list event than going to a Super Bowl.
It's
Right?
it's awesome. Yeah, it's a good time.
And I was about to let you go, and I'm not gonna. So Spider and I have been to a bunch of tracks. Is there a hidden gem for you that we probably still need to? We've been to most of the big name guys, most of the big name tracks. Is there a hidden gem that people have to go to that they'd be pleasantly surprised? I was shocked. We were grand marshals in
Michigan.
Michigan. I thought the infield in Michigan was a lot of fun. I wasn't expecting it to be that great. Is there a track that you think is sneaky great that we need to get to?
I'm thinking right now off the top of my head, yeah, the infield at Michigan's pretty electric. Obviously the Bristol night race is one of a kind. That's I don't know if you guys have been there or not. But all the other ones I feel like you've been at or I've seen you at.
Right, yeah. We're like dog shit wherever we are. All right, so this is Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst is having the weekend of his life, but he carved out a little bit of time to talk to us, and we appreciate it very much. Best of luck to you. We'll see you in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you
And then
guys.
we'll see you a couple weeks later in Nashville, and we'll tear it up at that bar again.
Congrats,
Beautiful.
Riley. Stay hot.
You're the man.
Thanks.
All right, so that's it with Riley. And again, always been an impressive guy, always been extremely friendly with us, and I'm looking forward to watching him race and be successful for a very long time. All right, let's get back to the headlines. RCR announced that Sheldon Creed will not be wheeling the number 2 next season. I'm
Your
disappointed
guy.
with that. Yeah. I mean, so does this guy automatically get into another seat? How fucked is Sheldon Creed? Who jumps into this seat? There's an obvious answer, but who do you guys think jump into this seat with Sheldon Creed no longer with RCR as far as the 2024 season is concerned?
I don't know. A lot of people are speculating that Ty Dillon could potentially be headed here, given the RCR and the family ties, or he could potentially be headed to Colleague and drive a Cup car. I don't know which would be better or where NASCAR fans are at, which they would prefer. Sound off in the comments. Let us know which you prefer: Ty Dillon racing in Xfinity and for RCR, or racing in Cup for Colleague. Personally, I think I'm cool with probably the RCR route. I think that would be cool. I think Ty's a little bit more competitive with those drivers. Not a knock on him, but the Cup Series is getting harder and harder, and I feel like he's just been bounced around from team to team. So I would like to see him get some consistency, and I feel like that could come given the family ties with RCR. And I would like to see selfishly someone else in Cup in the Colleague car. Maybe Noah Gragson, maybe who knows, but someone other than Ty Dillon.
Yeah,
Quiggs?
I think Ty Dillon, for me personally, I think him being in that car would be great. I don't he's been in the Cup Series so long that I don't know if he'd want to take that step back, but also does he want to be in the Cup Series finishing with a 30th place finish every week
and changing teams every year?
Maybe he doesn't want that. So I think Ty Dillon would be great for that, and it would make sense.
I am a little bummed for Sheldon Creed, though. Like Large is, I'm a massive fan of his. I actually got to see him at the Charlotte Roval, and hopefully he has a good opportunity lined up for next year. It sounds like he has an announcement coming soon, but Large and I will be rooting for Sheldon regardless. I think he's got a lot of potential promise, and can't wait to see what's next for him.
Has there been way more off-season moves this year than any other year, or is it just the fact that we're doing this podcast and paying way closer attention?
I can't tell. That's a good question. I feel like I definitely have my finger on the pulse in terms of the carousel and drivers changing teams and whatnot, but it does kind of feel
drivers.
It does feel, well, I mean, this year we have way more, I guess, people from Xfinity coming up. You got John Hunter, you got Carson, I guess Zane Smith's a truck driver, but still a lot of young guns coming up, whereas last year it was really Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson. Well, I guess that's 2 versus 3. I don't know. It does feel that way, though, quick.
But you do have all those guys who've been there before, too, like John Hunter making his second. You have Josh Berry making his second appearance. There's going to be a lot of new faces who are filling in that relatively rookie mode. I don't know. It seems like the Hot Stove League has been more on fire, but, yeah, perhaps it's because we're paying attention to it. And we're learning about it. One of the things that I had said, I was frustrated that John Hunter wasn't getting a shot behind the wheel. It was Carson Hocevar who was wheeling the 42. And Quiggs had said at first, then Tyler Noble had written in that, John Hunter Nemechek is a Toyota driver and the 42 is still currently a Chevy until after this season when Legacy makes the change. And no one is allowed to drive for a different manufacturer ever. That's what Tyler Noble had written in, which is great. And I don't think it's ever, because it was announced this week that John Hunter Nemechek is going to wheel the 42 at Homestead, which isn't to say that Tyler Noble was wrong. And really, obviously, we really appreciate when people write shit into us because it winds up that they had to go and ask permission. They had to go and ask permission and say, hey, can the kid wheel this? And, it seems like maybe even Jimmy Johnson had stepped up to get the kid a shot to be behind the wheel of a Legacy car in this year's Cup Series, which Carson Hocevar basically used his fill-in role for Noah Gragson, is basically the reason why he's jumping, right? It's the reason why he's going to be jumping truck and going right into to Cup next year. And then when this was announced that Carson is stepping aside as Noah's replacement just for this one race, John Hunter Nemechek is just stepping in for one race. Carson Hocevar, is a class act. He's thankful for what Legacy Motor Club has done to help him prepare myself for next year. Nothing to take for granted. I fully respect and understand them wanting to prepare themselves. Everyone just seems to be extremely friendly about that, particularly Chevy and Toyota. So I'm glad that bucked the trend, and we're going to get to see John Hunter Nemechek behind the 42. A little preview of it, even though it's going to be a different manufacturer this weekend.
Yeah. Two things on that. I think it's really interesting. John Hunter Nemechek is now, I think, maybe possibly the only Cup driver in history to drive for all 3 manufacturers. After this race, he'll have started in a Ford, a Toyota, and a Chevy, which is pretty interesting. And, I had one other thing. Fuck, I forgot.
No, that's cool, though. So he's ridden 3 different manufacturers in the Cup Series.
Yep.
Right.
And no one else has ever done that?
I don't know specifically about that, but it's definitely super.
No, you might be right. I'm not. That wasn't me challenging it. I just
I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I don't want to say for certainty. Someone fact check me on that.
Well, I think it is part of the brand loyalty that we were just talking about. It seems taboo to kind of jump around from manufacturer to manufacturer, but John Hunter is doing it nonetheless. Let's go into this weekend's races in Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I know we already spoke about the Xfinity domination with our man Riley Herbst. But we're going to talk about Sunday's race primarily, and it's going to be brought to you by Coca-Cola because two Coke drivers had a rough weekend. Two of the Coke family of drivers had a rough weekend, but I kind of was still able to enjoy the race because I was sitting there with a Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Chase Elliott and Daniel Suarez started 35th and 36th in Sunday's race following separate incidents in Saturday's practice. Elliott had a tire go down. He slid up and hit the outside wall, damaged the rear of his tire. Suarez got loose off of turn 2, slid down into the inside wall, tearing up the front end of his car. At the end of the day, on Sunday, Chase finished 32nd. Suarez salvaged a more respectable P15. And I'm telling you, as soon as they jumped out of the car, probably the first thing that they had done was grab an ice cold Coke Zero, which I'm about to do now. So if you're watching the race, if you're watching anything, if you're having a meal, give Coke Zero a try. Is it the best Coke ever? There's only one way to find out. Got to go and try one. What happened to Elliott? What happened to Chase Elliott this weekend?
Quiggs,
Did you catch
you
any of
got some
that?
intel?
Well, you're asking. I was at a wedding this weekend, so I was not watching like the practice and all that. But what it was just he had some issues during practice and had to go back.
I think he went to a backup car, and then they had to they were up against the clock to fix it, and I didn't really understand why.
And then he just didn't perform well in the race on top of it. I mean, Daniel Suarez kind of in the same position too, but was able, like I said, to pull out a P15. It just seems like it's that season for Chase Elliott, right?
Yeah.
I stopped betting on him a couple of weeks ago. Oh, by the way, last week's bet, I think the only person who hit was Spider. We'll talk about it today, but he hit on Larson. Don't let that boy get hot. But so I don't know. It seems like it's going to be the longest off season for Chase Elliott out of any driver. I think, because would you guys agree? Is that the most disappointing season for 2023? Is Chase Elliott's number one?
It's the longest season for him, but I think the off season, I think he's going to be refreshed that the season's over and looking forward to getting back into his old, hopefully successful ways.
Right. Yeah, he needs a fresh restart. But
yeah,
I would say there's not anyone that has his stature and performed as bad as he has this season.
Right.
Even Bowman had a win or two. But
I think Bowman is another disappointment. He didn't have any wins this season, obviously. Chase is a big disappointment. I know there's a bunch of guys who had won last year who didn't grab wins this year, but Chase Elliott, the golden boy of NASCAR, multiple wins, championship, youngest, all this kind of bullshit. I don't know. I think it's going to be a relatively rough offseason, hopefully one that doesn't involve any type of snowboarding, because hopefully he learned his lesson, or Hendrick is going to keep a close bodyguard on him. As far as the race goes, it went the way it should have. The 8 playoff drivers all finished in the top 11. Kyle Larson took P1. Kyle Larson had won. Christopher Bell, close second. Came down to the wire. Ryan Blaney 6th, William Byron 7th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Martin Truex 9th, Denny Hamlin 10th, and Chris Buescher 11th. So it seems like the right people are in the playoffs, at least from the results that we had seen this Sunday. But Larson dominated. I know I used that word already when talking about Riley Herbst on Saturday, but Larson did dominate. He swept both stages and then the checkered for his 23rd career win. It's his 4th of the season and his 2nd in Vegas. And afterward, he said this about Chris Bell, which I thought was kind of cool. Chris Bell had made a move up top late in the race, and it looked like he was going to be able to catch up to Larson. But Larson was able to block him out and then obviously won in a photo finish. And Larson had said, thankfully, Christopher always races extremely clean. Could have got crazier than it did coming to the start-finish line. Thank you to him for racing with respect there. That's what he said about Chris Bell. I don't think he's going to get that type of respect this week if it's the same situation and Denny Hamlin is breathing down his neck. Now Kyle Larson is locked into the next round, so I don't think people will really treat him with as much respect because everyone needs to win to advance, particularly, somebody like Ryan Blaney, who still needs certainly Chris Buescher, who's at the bottom of the pile right now. You guys agree with that? You think Chris Bell is a unicorn, coming into this week's, going into Miami, you think people are going to get less respectful, particularly in this race, because that desperation to get to the Final Four is there?
I think you have to. We've talked about Christopher Bell how great he is, but he can't get a win. And not saying that he should race dirtier, but it's like sometimes you gotta do stuff to get a win if you want to get a win, or else you'll end up finishing P2, P3, like he does in a lot of races. So I don't know. Maybe he has to kind of look out for himself a little bit if he wants to get a win.
I feel like it's inevitable for that to happen.
Does he have it in him though?
I don't know about
is he
Christopher
the
Bell,
kind of, yeah, Christopher
but all
Bell.
the other names in the playoffs, I could pretty much see doing that. I mean, it all depends on how egregious. Some a little bit more aggressive than others, you know?
Yeah, so if you're going to rank them, honestly, who do you think would be the most aggressive in Chris Bell's position this weekend with Kyle Larson? And for people who didn't watch the race, obviously we're going into the last lap, and that's where Bell had started to make a move. A move where, he went up high, rode the wall. When he came down, there probably could have been some contact made, some shadiness that had gone on. So who do you see in there? Who do you see in there that, these are all really familiar names? I think Chris Bell is probably the cleanest of all those drivers.
I would say Bell and Reddick would probably be the cleanest just based on my first take.
Yeah.
I would say the one most likely to do something dirty in that position would probably be Denny, just based on previous history of what's occurred on the track. Not calling that move dirty, but definitely a little bit dramatic. I think Denny could maybe push him up the track a little bit and try to take the win. And I can't say I would blame him for doing that as Denny goes on his championship pursuit and tries to get there. So
I have the exact same answer. It's Denny as the guy that's going to do whatever it takes to win, and then probably Bell and Reddick kind of the more passive of the remaining drivers.
I would be interested to see what Chris Buescher's reaction to a situation like that would be, just because while he's had great success this year, he's pretty much ran away with the wins he's had, whereas he's never really seemingly been in a position kind of like hunting someone down, at least not that I can remember, and had to make a move that would be characteristic or like described as dirty potentially.
I know you guys both mentioned Bell and Reddick, but I got to be honest, I don't think Byron has it in him. I don't think Byron seems pretty much altar boyish too. Do you agree with that? He's an excellent racer and all that stuff, but he seems like he's about as clean as they come in that final 8.
Yeah, I would say not as much so as Bell and Reddick. And I don't know what I'm basing that on. That's just like the vibe I get.
Yeah.
But I also think that Byron would be willing to make a move, whereas I can't say that about like Bell didn't, and Reddick is like a golden retriever. You know what I mean? So I can't see that happening.
I think me and you are kind of doing the same thing, Spiders, where we're answering this based off their like off the track personality. But I mean, it does kind of blend together. Like it's all kind of one.
Yeah.
I hear you. There's a grittiness to dirt racing too, which obviously Chris Bell seems to be that type of guy. So maybe he does have a dark side. So I don't know. Spider, what did you see this weekend as far as overperformers and underperformers in Las Vegas?
Well, I just want to do a quick over on Kyle Larson. The guy shows up and he won the Southern 500, the opening playoff race, and then now he wins here, another clutch playoff win to punch his ticket into the championship 4. We saw him, there were a couple times I thought his race was in jeopardy. Early in the race, he took the lead, and then he lost the lead, and it looked like, I don't know who was there. It might have been Buescher for a second that was up front that looked pretty strong and like faster than he was. Yeah, maybe one of the RFK guys, but he won stage 1. He came back. He got to the lead. And then the second time I was concerned was when he was he put the bumper in the wall. He saved the hell out of the car. It was a great elite move. And that's when I knew, I was like, if he can do that and then still hang on to the lead and win this, like, he is hands down the best active driver, in my opinion. That's where I'm at. And I'm excited because my championship futures that I had on him are slowly kind of coming into the picture here. And now I think he's plus 150 to win the whole championship this season. So feeling good about that and was really impressed with what I saw despite getting into the wall there. Kyle Busch, quiet third place. I thought that was really impressive. And excuse me. Yeah, he's kind of struggled in the playoffs and obviously out of the playoffs now, but pretty good run from him. Brad K 4th, and then Buescher finished 11th, but I did see good promising things out of RFK, and those were my overs. I didn't really have any unders aside from Chase Elliott, and I mean that one's kind of an excused under because it sounded like the team had some drama that they were working through. So I will excuse Chase there. Guys, what did I miss?
I mean, if I'm going to give anybody an over, it's Kyle Larson's pit crew. He pitted 7 times, and 5 of them was sub 10 seconds. And the only other thing, which is unbelievable, right? I mean,
it did feel like he won the race on pit road.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally did, but I felt like that was the difference in the race.
What's an interesting nuance, too, is that Brad K seemed to have a better pit team than Chris Buescher. And we know that Brad K is an extremely unselfish owner, driver, teammate. I mean, we've seen it this year with some of the finishes between him and Chris Buescher. But I don't know if that's something that's going to have to be swapped because it seems like he's got the better in the pits than Buescher, and he's obviously no longer alive in the playoffs, so we need to swap that around. They did that swap, I guess, between Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, right? And I believe those guys have swapped back since Kyle has been knocked out of playoffs last round. So it seemed like there was a lot going on in the pits this week. I don't have many unders either. It was kind of just a nice race. It was a great ending to the race. It was kind of a fun race to watch.
Incredible.
Yeah, so it must have been a great time in Las Vegas to be there and to be watching it live, as I'm sure it'll be this weekend in Miami as well. So I don't really have any unders. I will tell you, I would maybe add our guy Ty Gibbs's pit crew. So I have a little police blotter here. NASCAR penalizes the number 54 team for a safety violation after the loss of an improperly installed wheel during Sunday's race at Vegas. 2 crew members have been suspended from the next 2 championship points events. So 2 of his crew guys are out until Phoenix, and you saw the rim and the wheel pop off separately and go rolling on the tarmac this weekend in Vegas. So maybe throw them in the under. And I think I might also add NASCAR to the under because they gave everybody a pretty fucking big scare this weekend when Ryan Blaney was disqualified for not meeting requirements for shock size. In the post-race inspection, apparently they were using some sort of wonky template. So they had measured and his left front shock had come in, I believe it was too small. And then later on, they had realized that it was the template that was off. So they had disqualified him, moved him to the back of the pack as the official results. They rescinded that disqualification and gave him back his 6th place finish. It's a roller coaster for a guy who's looking to stay alive in the playoffs. It's a roller coaster for people who bet Ryan Blaney top 10, right? It's a roller coaster for people who bet Chris Buescher top 10, because I don't know, if Blaney gets DQ'd, does Buescher move up to 10 from 11? Like, it's an absolute fucking shit show that NASCAR unfortunately can't get wrong. But I guess the positive is that they admitted it, right? They admitted that it was wrong and they took down the disqualification relatively quickly. What did you guys think about that? It was a big story.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. They ultimately doing that gave him kind of like the death penalty to where he had no chance of getting in on points anymore. But yeah, it's a massive screw up to just have, I don't know, it's just a wild thing to have a wrong template and then blame them for illegal modifications and then just have to rescind everything. It's a very weird situation.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Part of me feels like it actually might have been an illegal shock, and they were just like, "Fuck it, we'll let him go," because the story doesn't make sense. Like the template being off. So what does that mean? They used the wrong template for the 3 other shocks as well. Like I don't know. I don't have enough information, but I'm glad he's freed, and hopefully he can stay alive here in the playoffs and keep doing his thing.
I tried to listen to get all the information on this, and it was one of those things where these things are hundredths of an inch that they're measuring for, and And, like, I think it was Larry McReynolds who brought up the part, well, how come other shocks then weren't popping, as illegal too?
Yeah.
So there was some, like, I don't know, confusion around the whole thing that we'll never know of. But either way, because once they lifted the disqualification, everyone's saying, oh, Team Penske paying NASCAR, like how everyone says that the Hendrick guys are untouchable. So it's one of those type of deals. But didn't seem like that at all. It seemed like, NASCAR just legitimately fucked up. And it led to, I think, one of the better social media back and forths that I've seen in a while. Maybe people know this, but it didn't seem like they did on Twitter how close Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney are. Bubba and Ryan Blaney are boys.
Oh, like best friends. Like that.
Yeah. And like when we were down in Charlotte, they were on the same team together. Remember that Spider? They were, thick as thieves, just real close friends. So Bubba, after it was announced that Blaney was disqualified, he tweeted, instead of like P1, P6, whatever, he tweeted P illegal shock yesterday with a thumbs up as a dig at Ryan Blaney. And everyone's like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? And then NASCAR rescinded the DQ, and then Bubba tweeted a picture of Stanley from The Office rolling his eyes. And then Blaney tweets, just remembered you were on vacation last year during Miami. Are you excited to go back? Like fucking shot across his bow. And then Bubba comes back, yes, learned a lot what not to do that weekend. Prepped and ready to go, and attached a clip of the 12 losing it at Homestead. Like they're going, like this is like a shot for shot, like your mama jokes kind of. And then Bubba's like, war room, but yes, all of what you're saying is correct. You're on a roll like normal. We're all waiting for the choke moment though, like normal. And then Ryan Blaney comes back, hell, you choked last round. So now I'm trying to learn what not to do from you. How crazy this world is. And then Bubba says, if your team doesn't end up with a breath mint sponsor after this week from kissing NASCAR's ass, that's an epic choke moment. I mean, that's a pretty cool back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for NASCAR. I think that's the type of shit that is considered, I don't know, marketable nowadays. Don't you guys think so?
Yeah, that's just the boys chopping it up.
Yeah, they are like the world's best friends. It's adorable to see them do stuff together. The dancing video of Ryan Blaney celebrating Bubba Wallace put on a story, and you could just hear how hard Bubba Wallace laughs at him. Is hilarious. And then they also have another video that I love watching of them like playing drums and screamo music inside like Bubba Wallace's childhood bedroom, it looks like. Very funny. And then also hanging out with them, the foreplay versus the Barstool versus NASCAR foursome golf tournament thing we did. They were like in the same golf cart. They were hanging out. They're just their energy together is hilarious.
Yeah, they're asshole buddies, right? I mean, it's kind of nice to see. So, and some people on Twitter weren't privy to that because it started to whip around. Bubba Wallace talking shit. And, there's a lot. There's no shortage of haters with Bubba Wallace. So people were all over it, and I thought it was kind of cool, especially knowing what their relationship is. Oh, you know who reached out to me? Freddie Kraft, the guy from Door Bumper Clear.
Yeah,
he's Bubba Wallace's spotter. I think we're gonna probably sit down and have a couple of drinks with him when we're out in Phoenix. Seems like a fucking great guy.
Yeah.
And I mentioned we never had Bubba on the show yet, but we're gonna try and get that done.
Yeah, we got to get Bubba on.
Yeah. Paint schemes. Listen, Stewart Haas Racing hasn't had a great season. They haven't really had a great season, but I think they're making lemonade with the amount of press and the amount of good mojo that they're getting off of paint schemes. So we're heading down to Miami, and like I said, the Forever 400, named after the number 4 car, Kevin Harvick, and they're going to bring back the Budweiser paint scheme that was on his car when Harvick won the 2014 championship at that track. I think he drove a Chevy back then, so he's driving a Ford now. It doesn't really matter. But Harvick had been an Anheuser-Busch partner since 2011, with Budweiser serving as sponsor before Busch Light took the wheel in 2016. I took a look at this. I think one of us drafted that in the paint schemes draft a couple of weeks ago. It's a sharp-looking car, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the track this weekend.
It looks great.
Yeah, I think Harvick is like one of those guys who's deserving of all these accolades, like I say. And so little things like this, I'm not taking him. I'm not taking him anymore. And I think Kevin Harvick, obviously, at this point, maybe has a shot to do well at Phoenix, but otherwise will end his swan song without a win. But I really like the way that he's going out, kind of rolling and stuff like the Budweiser car in Homestead. So keep an eye out for that.
Is Homestead a night race?
No, 2:30.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be
2:30. Chase is in his the Night Owl.
The Night Owl, yeah.
Which I think they've only ran at night races before.
Yeah, like Bristol Night Race.
Yeah.
I can tell you what. Did anyone see any paint schemes that jumped out at them this weekend?
Yeah, I saw a few. I liked Harvick's red and blue one, and then the Reddick one with Jordan on it. I think he's done a great job all season long, rocking the Jordan stuff. And then the last one I have was the Ricky drumstick featuring Dr. Umstick.
I hate Dr. Umstick. I didn't dig the Jordan one. That was like the Jordan 8s. That was like almost like that Spike Lee type thing where it's just a random carpet shit all over them. Remember those things?
If you put a Jumpman on the hood, I'll be a fan of it.
You're there for it?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. We had talked last week. Quiggs, you see anything or no?
No, not from this week. Just the I think the Budweiser car is so sick, but last week nothing great.
I'd gotten a letter from a guy, Fantasy Racing Cheat Sheet. That's the handle on Twitter, Fantasy Racing Cheat Sheet. And he said, Lard, you mentioned the past couple of pods about Amarola's paint scheme. We were sort of seeing how boring the Smithfield paint scheme is, except powered by bacon across the back is kind of dope. But he said that I've been trying to tell those guys at SHR Smithfield that they're dropping the ball here. How do you have a Cuban-American driver and a company that sells pork not come up with a paint scheme where you wrap the car in the Cuban flag and throw some bacon or roast pork on the side, or even like a Cuban sandwich? Cubans have holidays based around cooking whole pigs in a box at Kajashin, for Christ's sake. I think this is brilliant. Like, I think if you pull in what our guy Ricky Stenhouse is doing, and every week you have a different Smithfield pork product on your back corner panel, I would think that'd be fucking awesome. You're like a spiral ham, as we get into like the November race, he's saying about down, and there's the biggest Cuban population outside of Cuba is in Miami. Throw a big old Cuban sandwich on that with the pickle and the mustard and stuff like that. I think it's a missed opportunity for a guy like Almirola, but I can't be mad because SHR has been doing so much other cool shit this week that I'll let it go. And with that, we're going to roll right into Miami. This preview of Miami is brought to you by NASCAR. This is a track we only go to once a year. It's a low grip, 1.5 mile track. It's supposed to be an absolutely beautiful day. It's not going to be one of those 100 degrees on the deck. I think it's going to get up into the low 80s. Kyle Larson is the reigning champ in Miami, where he dominated last year. We were there, right, Spider? That was when we had that hell of a bus ride afterwards. It kind of sucked. I think it's interesting that the 4 drivers below the cut line, which is Bell, Reddick, Blaney, and Buescher, have never won at Homestead, but the top 4 all have. And the only other thing that I read that's kind of interesting is, although they're going to have a bunch of different grand marshals and stuff, the pace car official for this race will be none other than Mr. Worldwide. Pitbull will be in the house. So it looks like
baby.
Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be a great time for everybody. It's going to be the Forever 400 presented by Mobile One, excuse me. And it's going to start Sunday, October 22nd at 2:30 on NBC. All right, picking the tires. We'll go right to the picks, and we'll end the show with it. Again, congratulations to Spider, who grabbed Kyle Larson last week. Kyle Larson is getting tougher and tougher to bet on because these odds are now, it's fucking disgusting.
The odds are very interesting this week.
Yeah, so I don't know what you guys, and like we had said, plus 155 in the futures right now for Kyle Larson to win it all. I think he's plus maybe 250 to win the race on Sunday. There just doesn't seem a lot of money to be made by betting on Kyle Larson, but plus 275 is what I'm seeing right now. So do you mind if I go first while I'm on it?
Go first.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna grab Denny. I think I haven't bet Denny Hamlin in a while, so I think I'm gonna grab Denny Hamlin at plus 700. I I don't know. I think he's overdue. I didn't speak. I listened to Actions Detrimental with Denny this week, and he had some interesting shit to say going into Homestead. He also had brought something up that it's that time of year in the playoffs where a lot of the lap cars are showing a lot of respect to the cars still left in the playoffs. I think it was J.J. Yelly who had stayed out and allowed Denny a little bit more room in a pit box. Like there's certain things that are going on that are going the way of the people who are playoff drivers.
You can kind of see that just from the way people, like the finish of last race. All the playoff drivers were in the top 11. Yeah. I think they're kind of letting them just go up there and do their own thing.
There's still a few guys who are still competing for wins. Brad Kay and Kyle Busch this week obviously jump out at it. But we had said anyone who's going to make a very aggressive move, if you're not in the playoffs and you make a very aggressive move on somebody who's fighting for a playoff spot to stay alive, Jesus Christ, I think you'd become a goddamn pariah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if Kyle Busch all of a sudden just hooked Kyle Larson into the wall this weekend, it would have been curtains for him. So I like Denny. I like Denny to drive aggressively this weekend, so I'll take him at plus 700. I'm also thinking that one of the guys that's not getting, particularly after that that fine was handed down, even though he's not in a must-win situation, with the disqualification, not the fine, with the disqualification, Ryan Blaney would have been put in a must-win situation. He's not there yet. He still could do this on points. But I think I like Blaney this weekend too. And I think we're getting some pretty good odds on him at plus 1,800. So you have Blaney at plus 1,800 behind a bunch of guys who are non-playoff drivers. And I know mile and a half may not be his thing compared to some of these other guys who are ranked above him. So I think I'm going to take Denny to win, and I'm going to take Ryan Blaney as a top 3. I'm going to take a top 3 with Ryan Blaney. And that's basically it. I think that's all that I'm going to have for this ticket. I might look at some head-to-heads later on in the week because those have been getting pretty exciting for me, but that's all I'm going to do for this week. What do you guys got?
I'll go next, and I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick, who's plus 600. He's beneath the cut line, and I think he's going to need to show good performance here to stay alive. So I think Tyler Reddick has a good shot to win, and plus 600, I'll take that all day. Truex has the same odds at plus 600, which I'm a little skeptical of. I think this past weekend was his first playoff top 10 finish, so a little bit pessimistic on Martin Truex at the current moment. So in terms of where they sit on the odds, I would rather have Reddick if you're going to give me a driver plus 600. So I don't hate the Denny pick from Large, but I'm going with Reddick, and I think Denny might hopefully be able to help Reddick at some point in this race as well. He might push him along, or who knows. We've seen Denny help Tyler Reddick and Bubba before previously this season. And then one other pick I got, and this is just a baby little sprinkle, is going to be Kevin Harvick, 25-1. The race is named after him. According to driver averages, he's the best driver at Phoenix Raceway, at Miami Homestead. So I'm going to go with him, and I think he's worth a little tiny sprinkle. He obviously, like I said, he's going to get all the attention this week with the name of the race and his final time here. So give me Kevin Harvick. I would love to see that storyline come to fruition, and those are my 2 picks.
Before you go, Quiggs, I'm going to add one more. I'm going to take Toyota to win plus 130. Just so I can have something on a couple of the boys, particularly one that I'm not allowed to bet on. You know what I mean? So I think I'm going to grab a little bit on the Yodas to win too. What do you got, Quicks?
I think for this, there's 2 strategies you could do. I think you either take Kyle Larson alone, or you sprinkle around, and I'm going to sprinkle around. I'm taking Ryan Blaney, which is a strategy I don't usually do because I usually go off like who historically has been good at this track, and he is not good at this. I think he has 1 top 10 finish ever, but I think just situationally he could use a win. And then I'm going William Byron. I don't think there's that much that separates William Byron and Kyle Larson right now, and just one's plus 250, one's plus 700. So I'm going William Byron, and then similar to Spider, I'm doing Kevin Harvick, but I'm taking him top 3, which is plus 700. He's got an average finish of 6th at this track in the last 10 races. The race is named after him. I could see him pulling like a Kyle Busch last week and just sneaking into the top 3. So
yeah,
those are my picks.
It's funny, we both had Blaney. He's by far the most disrespected of the playoff drivers.
He's just been really bad here, though, in the past.
Has he?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Martin Truex just been really bad all the way around too. Like I don't know if anyone is touching him, but he's dying for something to kind of break out. Also, I think Dale Jr. is riding this weekend in the Xfinity. I want to take a look at that too. Right. Maybe put a little bit. That'd be a fucking wonderful headline for that. But that's it. So Spider had mentioned casually when we were talking about Bubba and Ryan Blaney that he was involved in a golf tournament with the guys from our Foreplay podcast and with a couple of guys from NASCAR, including Denny, Blaney, Ricky, and Bubba. So you can catch that on the main page on YouTube. You should be able to find it real quick, or obviously it's going to be on our social pages. And I don't know, what else do we have to talk? We're not going to the races this weekend. We're not going to Martinsville next weekend, but we're going to close the season tight by going to Phoenix, then to the awards show in Nashville a couple of weeks later. Spider and I will be in Alabama this weekend.
That's right.
Roll Tide. So we'll be there for Alabama versus Tennessee. I think this will be my 4th Alabama game this season. So they're going to get me a room in the frat house if I do one more week there.
There you go.
And that's it. So we'll be all over social media with that stuff. And thank you very much to Riley Herbst for coming on, and congratulations again to him. And we'll talk to you guys next week on Rubbin' Is Racing.